And hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode. Today, we are interviewing Dr. Youssef. He has a very inspiring stories. I've been waiting this for a while. I've heard about him when I was applying, and literally, I think his story is going to help many, many people out there who are seeking to get into residency. He did lots of things, and he matched into general surgery in the University of Toronto. So Dr. Youssef will take us through his experience. We're going to talk as much as details as possible to help as many IMGs as possible and to create a plan where people can look for and help them into their journey. And welcome, Dr. Youssef.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend. So we're going to start by the first question. Can you tell me a bit about where did your medical school and how was it there?
Sure. So I was born and actually raised in Syria. So I lived all my life before I came to Canada in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my medical school in 2006 in University of Damascus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I completed my general surgery residency actually in Syria.
Wow.
And I finished in 2012.
Okay.
So medical school in Syria is, I hope that somebody from Syria will know. And to who doesn't know, we learn Arabic, we learn medicine in Arabic.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's the same in the other cities in Syria as well.
Yes, exactly. It was the same in Buffalo too.
Right. So coming from medical school in Syria, I'm not really in a place to comment on the level of teaching or experience, etc.
Yeah.
But for what's relevant now, it's quite challenging to come from a med school that only teaches in Arabic, and then you will have to get the medical terminology as like a new language for you. So that was quite a bit of a challenge. And then from there, I knew that I want to do surgery. So I did residency in Syria. It was 5 years program.
Wow.
Yeah. So I finished in 2012. And as you know, the war, I would call it, started in Syria in March 2011.
Yeah.
So once I finished, which was February 2012, I came in March 2012 to Canada.
Wow. So like you graduated there, you did a residency in general surgery, 5 years in Syria, and
That's
then
right.
you came here.
And what? Sorry?
And then like you came here after finishing the residency there.
That's correct.
Okay.
So yeah.
Alrighty, we are back. So we talked about like your medical school, and I will emphasize because like it is inspiring for me. Like you already did the general surgery back in Syria, and it's a 5 year. It's not walk in the park. You finished that. You came here in 2012, and right now, can you tell me about your experience? Like, how did you navigate the system? Like when you first arrived, like, did you write the exams first? Did you do research? Like, what did you first?
Yeah. So so coming from Syria, so when we decided to come to Canada, so I was a doctor. My wife was a doctor as well. So when we thought about changing our life and coming to Canada, we picked it as another country to live in. Mainly, we didn't really prioritize our medical careers over the country, which I think I just want to get I don't know, share this thought with anybody who's thinking to come to continue medicine or study medicine in Canada. I think you should like to live in the country, because by definition, before you apply, as everybody knows, you should be a permanent resident, which is not something that you can just do in overnight. like you need to be an immigrant to Canada, meaning that you need to have already committed yourself to live in Canada and then to work in medicine or to try to work again in medicine. So to be honest, when we first choose to come to Canada, it was like, you know, like just go there. We're coming out of a country that has war. We just want to get a better place to our kids to live. And then, oh, by the way, I'm a doctor. My wife is a doctor. If we can do it, that would be great. If we cannot, we know it's like the chance is really low. So coming to Canada, I was kind of prepared, but not that much. So what I did is that, so in 2012, there was still MCCEE, Medical Council of Canada evaluating exam, which is gone.
Exactly.
And yes, and QE1 and QE2, which is qualification exam 1 and qualification exam 2. At that time, there was no NAC-OSCe. It was only these three exams. So I took the EE in Lebanon before I arrived Canada. Couple of years maybe before I arrived Canada. And then I studied from the USMLE step 2 and 3 for the QE1. So I arrived in March 2012 and I took QE1 in May 2012, like a couple months after I arrived. And to be honest, at that point, my big problem was really meeting anybody who already took these exams. And I didn't. I was barely able actually to talk to someone who and the problem is at that point there was no Q, like there's no Q banks. The information in the website were really limited compared to USMLE step 1 and 2. So my preparation for the QE1 and for EE was mainly from what was available for me to get from USMLE. So I did USMLE step 2 mainly, and UWorld for EE, and it was good. And for Q1, I kind of studied a little bit more in the step 3, and then I took the exam, and I passed. But again, it was really difficult to, at that point, to just get any clear idea about what are these exams. And I'm always comparing to these times where at least quite a bit of people already took the exam, and there's quite reasonable actually resources about the exam, the questions, and at least to know what you're going to see in the exam, which was not necessarily the case at that point. So I passed QE1 in May, and then, well, let's aim for QE2. So I registered for QE2, and that one was quite a bit of challenge. I never done anything in the patient interaction type of thing in English, other than just a quick course of CS back in Syria. And everybody that I even asked that they took QE2 were telling me like QE2 is like beyond difficult for you as an IMG first year. Like I didn't meet anybody that passed that exam at all. But anyway, I took it in December and I passed it. So I arrived in March 2012, and by December 2012, I passed all the exams and I applied to the match for the first time, to the CaRMS for the first time in 2012. It was all in like 6 months or maybe or something.
Wow. That's really like inspiring. I think like one of the points I want to emphasize here, like again, you took those exams which mainly test you on basic internal medicine knowledge after 5 years of doing general surgery residency. So
yeah.
I bet you it wasn't easy, eh?
It was difficult. It was.
Yeah.
And I really underscore what you said about the different background of people coming to the same point where you should be good in your passing your exams. That makes a difference. So a person who's coming from internal medicine background will be much more comfortable dealing with most important topics. in addition to be kind of like a first line, like frontline physician who you're thinking would be more of like comprehensive about the patient, like figuring out what's going on, rather than to coming from a focused subspecialty or specialty where you just answer one question.
Yeah,
that was difficult, right? So yeah, it was challenging somehow, but it worked.
good. And did you write the USMLEs, or you only use the Word, the question banks like UWord and like, did you write the exam like USMLEs or no?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Oh,
I passed it. Oh yeah, I passed. This was in the next few years.
Okay, so
first year I applied to CaRMS.
Gotcha.
I was like, that's it. I passed the exam. I should apply to CaRMS. Let's do it. I applied to CaRMS.
Gotcha.
As if I wasn't there, so I knew how behind I was.
Okay.
I was like, okay, that's it. Apply to the match. You have the exams. That's it. And then like, boom, nothing at all. So and this was my first interaction with the system, and where I got really kind of eye-opening shock about how behind I was in terms of being ready to be taken as an IMG for anything, actually, never mind the surgery. And I'm always saying, never mind the surgery, not because the surgery is like way more difficult than anything else. It's just about the spot and demand. That's all about it. That's what makes things competitive versus not competitive. So for surgery, it's way more competitive than other disciplines that you'll have more spots available. So I was so behind to take anything, actually. So next year, I was like, okay, let's just try something else on top of what I'm doing. And then during the next 2 years, I took all the USMLE steps, 1, 2, 3, and CS. And I applied for both. And by the year they applied for a match in Canada, I was applying to both US and Canada, 2 years back to back.
Okay, so after 2012, like you didn't match. So like, what did you do at that time? Like, tell me about that year. I think it's better, like in your experience, just to go year by year.
Yeah, sure.
You have quite experience. I don't think like going through the exams and like, so in 2012, the first hit, what did you do?
So 2012, I applied to the match. By March, nothing, no interviews, nothing, as if I didn't apply.
Yeah.
And then, you know, going around the system, knowing what's going on more, I realized how much I need. So what I did really was, I was in Montreal. So what I did really is that I applied for observership, right? Another point about how usually the system works in terms of how much you need to be really persistent. Like, you need to understand that there are hundreds of thousands of people outside the system that wants to just access. And the access ports are really busy, like really busy. Like when I know now, I work with the staff, I know how busy they are. So sending an email to some staff telling them like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I want to do an observership with you, and you don't hear anything from them and you consider this a failure, is just a premature withdrawal. Like, let's put it like that. I kept sending emails until the guy told me, when he met me for the first time, and he ended up to be my supervisor, and then I worked with him, and then he ended up being the guy that supported me to get into surgery. When I first met him, he was just like, what do you want? Right? Like what the hell do you want? So because it happens that you send them an email, and then like, duh, sure, like, I don't know, 10% of people will even read it. Let's put it like that. From these 10%, maybe 1% will be really interacting with your email, and then may or may not respond. So a week passed, and I send them another email. Stay professional and nice. I know how busy you are. Just following up with my last email. And then no response. Another email a week after. Just keep going, right? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. Come, I'm gonna see you. And then the moment he saw me, like, okay, you're Fuad? Yes, what do you want? He was like, what the hell, like just get out of my life, right? And then it's like, oh, I want to work on research. He's like, okay, great. I have another staff here that he's working on research, he's very active. And then, okay, I'll take you to him. Is that okay? I was like, yeah, perfect. So he took me to the other rooms, like, hey, so-and-so, this is Fuad, he's an IMG, he did general surgery in Syria, he wants to do research. Is there anything for him? And that guy was like, yeah, sure, I'm working on a project. Yeah, we can deal with it. And then the other guy ended up to be my supervisor in my master's, one of my best mentors and friends now. So just to explain this point and make it a little bit of reproducible. I applied, I sent emails for observership. I did an observership in general surgery at the Montreal General Hospital. And I did observership in Montreal Children's Hospital, which is where I ended really working and kind of growing until I could match. So 2012, I applied to the match. I was so behind. What I need to do, I need to expose myself to the system. How you do that? You apply for some sort of observership. So in your email, I guess you need just to offer your efforts, your sincere wish to learn and to expose yourself to the system in a very nice, professional, persistent way. So it doesn't work if you send an email every single week to that person, they will respond. Just to, you know, Shawshank's Redemption, same. I don't know if you did you see that movie?
No.
Shawshank's Redemption. Yeah, no. Yeah. Well, I think it's one of the best in the history. But anyway, it will be a good night if you want to see it. It's pretty, I don't know, 1990s or something. So that guy is like sending a letter every single week to do redemption of that prison he was in. This is part of the story.
Yeah.
But at the end, they were like, they send him what he wants just to get rid of him. You know what I mean? So you should be in that, like, you should be in that spot. Like, send an email, very nice, professional, every week to that person. They will respond. They will respond at the end. You know, don't take it as like, oh, I sent an email, nobody looked at it, or like I had no response. Yeah, for sure, you're gonna have to have a response. People are busy, very busy. But not because they are bad people. They're so busy.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, 2012, I didn't match. I applied for observership. I did one in Montreal General Hospital in general surgery. I looked at everything and I sat down with every single resident I know in general surgery to tell them, well, what do I need to do? And then I sat down with an IMG and he told me what he did. And then I realized I needed, on top of what I have, I needed lots of research and I needed lots of connection. I need to be known in the system somehow. So I applied to another observership, which is in a Montreal Children's Hospital, where I was part of the team for quite a bit. So during my observership in the Montreal Children's Hospital, for the same, you know, concept of like, okay, just do observership, get to know the system, get them to know you. At that point, they had kind of a shortage in covering the first call, because pediatric surgery usually is not a general surgery rotation. It's only for PGY1s. So they always have a problem in covering calls usually. And this was part of it when I came to Montreal. So we're like, oh, so when they heard I passed the QE2, which is mean I'm now licensed by Medical Council of Canada, they were like, oh, do you want to cover calls with us? I was like, is that possible? They were like, yeah, we can work on it. And then I got a restrictive, it's not the restrictive permit that they usually get in Quebec, something like that, to work only in that hospital and cover calls in that hospital. And then that was the start. That was the real start.
Wow, I never heard about this.
Yeah. It happens. So to get that license from Collège de Médecins de Québec, so I started working in the children's like a year and a half after I arrived, almost, and I worked for like a couple of years. So that covered me in terms of being known to the system, have a Canadian experience, etc. And during that, I did a master's in McGill in experimental surgery, which ended up with I think like 12, 13 publications in 3 years, which was quite a bit. And that set me up well actually for the match.
Nice.
So 2012, again, did my observership, 2 of them. One of them was the reason for me to work after I passed the exams. And I got my master's through the team in Montreal Children's Hospital.
Gotcha. So I believe by the end of 2012, like you did 2 observerships in that year, and then like you applied again.
Yeah, so in 2013, I didn't apply because at that point I was still working. I was still doing my master's.
Gotcha.
But I didn't apply in 2013, but I applied in 2014 and 2015, and then I matched and started in 2016.
Gotcha. So before we go to 2014, 15, between 12 and 14, you did the masters. Can you tell me a bit about it? Like, first, like, who told you to do a masters? How much it help? How much time it needs? How much like money it needs? So take me through this. And I want to also like add one point that Dr. Youssef is married, has kids, has a family. And he was doing all this despite having other life responsibilities. Right. So kudos for you.
Yeah. So the master's that I did was in what's called experimental surgery. If you hear about it, you'll feel like, oh my God, these guys are like inventing something new. It's just a fancy name for regular master. Mostly it's research credits. So masters in general, I think, in my opinion, and this might not be true everywhere, but in my opinion, getting a degree to apply, because I want to put everything that I did just in the context of somebody else who's applying. In my opinion, getting a degree before you apply to the CaRMS is not a must. It definitely helps. Like whatever you do helps. It's not like a waste at all. But I think that research experience before you apply to the CaRMS is mainly aims for 2 reasons. First and foremost, the person who has research or publications is like even better. It just, so to do a publication, you need to take the study from like an idea to something you can read in a paper. And this process is exhausting, you know? So taking and needs a lot of, you know, communications and work on it. So it's just a sign of persistence. It's just a sign that this person is organized enough and persistent enough to finish a project. This is the big message that is going to get into it. So for somebody who is really having 13 publications versus 15 publications versus 10 publications, there's no much of a difference. Like nobody will be impressed at all by the number mainly. Well, if you have huge number, it means that you have extensive experience, but that's not really what they want. I think what they want is first for you to be familiar with the research. That's important. That's very important. Because if you're not familiar with the research, you'll not be able to understand the study when it comes up in your residency, and you're not going to be able to understand it when you're a staff, meaning that you're not going to be able to understand, should you just take this study or leave this study or something like that. So it's not acceptable in general to be completely ignorant of research. Like that's a must. You need to know some research. But I'm just talking about having a degree before residency or achieving publications. It's mainly for, first, you are organized. You can take a project to the end. That's number 1. Number 2, it's communication, right? It's connection. So with your research, you will know people. And these people, which are your supervisors, everybody else in the study, these people will see your work ethics. Well, this person is very professional, very organized, comes in time. So they can project when they want to do a letter of recommendation for you into residency. So even if you don't have the chance to work with them in a clinical point of view, they can't really they can say, well, he's a great doctor, or he's going to make a great doctor, because they never saw you maybe interacting with a patient. But only from the research standpoint, they can comment on these things, and this will be very helpful for you to apply to the match and get these, values or personal characteristics. You can just carry these into the residency, which are the same. Like an organized person is an organized person, either doing research or taking a call or doing anything else. A professional guy, a nice guy, will continue to be like that. So research mainly, in my opinion, before you apply to the match, is first is a message that you're an organized person, persistent, you can make things happen. And second, it's a connection. So through my group in the observership, and again, because I knew that I want a Canadian experience in research. So that supervisor, that the first he met me, he told me, like, what do you want? I told him I want to do research. He's like, okay, great. I have another guy who's working research. He's doing a study. And then he actually took me to the other guy. It's like, oh, like here, there's Fuad. He wants to do research. Do you have anything for him? And he was like, yeah, sure. We have a study. You can work on it. And then that was the start.
Gotcha. Okay. And how much time, like, the masters took, like, in a week, like for someone like who's busy, like how much time would you put your masters for the masters, for the observership, for family, kids?
Right. So I should say that everything I did and have been doing actually was greatly supported by my wife. And if there's a hero in my story, it's actually not me, because I spent the time to work hard in things that needed to be done. And that was kind of what I needed to do. But things in the background was taken care of by her. So as I mentioned, she was also a pediatrician. She was pregnant when we came to Canada in our second daughter. And when I applied to the first time, it was again the eye-opener shock, like, we are so behind. There's no way we're gonna make it if we want to apply together. She was about to get her delivery, and I was already past the exam. So we kind of decided, okay, she was like, okay, just go for it. And kind of, I will take care of everything in the background, kind of. So how busy it is busy. But I don't think I would have done it well without my wife being super supportive. For the masters, there's two big types of masters. Masters were like, I would call it class-based. Let's say you're doing, I think, like statistics or something like that you need to spend really most of your credits in the class. This is extremely time consuming, like you need to be in the class. There's no way to go around that. And there's thesis-based masters, and that's the one that I took, which is mainly, if it's the total would be like 45 credits, you'll have 15 credits in class. It means that, like, if each class would be like 3 credits, so you'll have to have like 5 classes total. And then you'll have your thesis, which is basically your biggest amount of work. And this will take like 30 credits. And the thesis you can work on in any time during these year or two or whatever time that you want to finish your master's in. So in terms of how busy it is and time consuming, if we're taking a class-based master's, it's very time consuming. If we're taking a thesis-based master, it's going to be less time consuming, because you will be working on your research. At the same time, you're fulfilling the demands of getting the credits. it was busy, but on the other end, before I started to work, I had time to kind of still be with my family. But after I started to work, it was more and more busy to do the masters and to be taking the calls, and also to work on my my CV, let's say, just to get to be a better candidate.
Wow, inspiring. And is it okay if I ask, like, when you started like covering calls, like, were you paid at that time or no?
Yes. So it was like I was a master's student at that time, and some of the programs will just offer the master's student some sort of minimum payment or something.
Gotcha.
The deal was like, okay, so you take the calls during the month, and it will be included with your master's kind of deal. Let's put it like that. Yeah, I was paid for that. I mean, not a great amount of money, but good enough for us to live well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because one of the things like most MGs have difficulty with, especially like people in your situation when they come, is like doing a master's versus working another job to support their family. I think that's where the conflict usually arises, and I think that's where like most people also struggle.
Right. But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but when you apply to get a master's and you don't have job, you can apply for, depending on what province you're living in, you can apply for loans from the government to support you.
Gotcha.
So, and that's what I did. So before I started to work, so I got my master's, and then I was offered the work, and then before I did that, I got loans from the government. And these loans will be divided into kind of family expenses that you don't need to pay back, and then the university fees and whatever it's going to cost, and these you'll need to pay back in very long, reasonable time. So you can always do that. I understand it's very difficult, but you can always do that. You can always apply for loans from the government, but the first thing is you need to get the master. Like, you need to start the master. You can't just apply for the loan and then you can't take it the other way around. You need to get the master secured, and then from your master you can apply for the loans for them to cover your expenses. Okay.
So moving forward, 2012, 2014, you were doing masters, observerships, and you finished your SMLEs.
Right.
What happened in 2014?
So what happened in 2014? I applied again.
Okay. US and Canada.
So at that point, I applied to Canada and United States.
Okay.
Right. So I applied to Canada and United States, and I got interviews in general surgery here, and I didn't get any interview in general surgery in the United States at all. My step. Sorry.
Doing electives. Sorry, despite doing observership and having research.
Observerships here in Canada, yeah.
And having letters.
Oh yeah. So I got very good letter of recommendation, but at that point my mistake was I didn't apply wide enough. Is that fair? So what happened at that point is that the NAC-OSCe was starting to be a demand before you apply to the match outside Quebec. But inside Quebec, you can take NAC-OSCe or QE2. And for me, I already took QE2. I didn't realize I have a chance actually outside Quebec, because I understand at that point that, well, it's pretty small community as a surgery. And then if you didn't really, which is somehow still true actually. So if I want to compare the match in Canada versus match in the United States, in Canada, they need to know you in most of the subspecialty if you want to apply on. I think, and I might be wrong, like for example, if you have, if you're applying to something that has relatively high number of spots like family medicine, they don't expect to know you because they know that there's lots of programs around and there's lots of spots. So nobody will expect you to do 10 10 observerships, let's say, or like to be exposed to 10 programs equally. So people will depend more on your scores, maybe in exams or something else, to figure it out if they want to take you or not. But in surgery and other disciplines where there's only 4 or 5 spots available in the country, they really want to know you, and they expect that you are already known to the program before you apply. Because, for example, in surgery, I would give an example. So in surgery, the IMG can in general surgery, the IMG can apply to Quebec programs because they don't have IMG spots, CMG spots. It's just a competitive spot for both. So you can apply theoretically. It's not practically as good. And outside Quebec, you can apply to University of Toronto because they have 3 spots actually for IMG every year, almost 2 to 3. It's only for IMGs. And in Ottawa, you can also apply, but in Ottawa, you have to do an elective before you apply. It's a pre-request. And for me as an MD coming from outside the country, I can't do elective. I can only do observership. So your spots are really in between Quebec and, as a general surgery, Quebec and Toronto. And most of the other provinces don't even take IMGs at all. So I didn't realize that my chance will be okay if I apply outside Quebec. I thought, okay, so I am known here to the community in Quebec. I did my master's. I work with the children's at the Montreal Children's Hospital with actually pediatric surgery team, which is general surgery basically. And the NAC-OSCe was needed to apply to Ontario. I didn't think I had a chance in Ontario, and that was a mistake, obviously. So I didn't apply outside Quebec, and I couldn't match.
Wow.
Yeah.
And can you talk to me through the process of when you say you didn't apply broadly in the US, can you expand a bit on this?
Oh no, I applied widely to US. I applied to every So, but I meant that I didn't apply widely in Canada.
Oh, gotcha.
If you ask me why I didn't match in that year, and my answer is because I didn't apply to Ontario. I didn't apply to Toronto where I matched. Because I didn't think I had a chance at that point.
Gotcha.
And then when I met somebody, he told me no, we just need to apply widely. You need to take that exam, the NAC-OSCe, and then you have a chance. You still have a chance there. I was like, okay, but I couldn't do an elective there. And they told me, no, you have a chance, just apply.
Gotcha.
So at that point, between 2014 and 2015, I took the NAC-OSCE and they passed it. And then I applied again. And I was interviewed in Toronto, and that was my first time actually visiting the city. And I matched in Toronto.
Wow. So unbelievable. So let's just go back to 2014. I want another point I want to ask you about did you only apply to surgery in 2014, or did you apply to other specialties?
I did apply to other specialties, not other specialties only. I just applied for family medicine.
Gotcha.
So, and this is another point that when I'm starting to kind of get more and more frustrated in the process, I heard a whisper telling me that, well, you can apply for family medicine. And then at that point, you'll be like, okay, fine, I can apply. And then it will be, you can still do something after family medicine. Either you can apply to surgery from the system, from family medicine, or what you can do is that you can do some more kind of, I know, sometimes they do an extra year in family medicine that they will switch to something different. Like you can do ER after family medicine, you can do something else. So it's not a bad start to just get into the system with a family medicine, then you can switch. So I applied to family medicine, and I got an interview actually in family medicine, and that's something that I want to tell everybody about. So every year I applied, I thought I had a lesson to learn. And one of them is this. So when I applied to family medicine, when you come into Canada, especially if you're coming from a system that has family medicine as a general practitioner, like for example, in Syria, there is family medicine subspecialty, but it's not really a family medicine as the system here kind of formed. So when you come from outside, maybe you're a general surgeon or like something else, or you want internal medicine, and then somebody will tell you, well, why don't you apply to family medicine? And you will apply to family medicine as a backup, right? You will be like, okay, I'm applying to internal medicine or applying to general surgery, but I will apply to family medicine as a backup. Fine, why not, right? That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. So I learned a lesson about, as a Canadian graduate, it's okay to apply to family medicine as a backup, because you will interact with them and they will tell you, well, I wanted to do this and that, but I'm applying to family medicine as a backup. So you'll feel like, okay, fine, I can do that as well. No, we cannot do that as an IMG. So as part of the process that I went through, when I fail, I want to know what's going on, right? Otherwise, how can I improve?
Exactly.
So when I failed in matching in family medicine, I was interviewed with the program director. I sent him an email telling him, I would like to hear from you, please. How can I be a better candidate? And he was nice enough to meet me.
After you did not match in 2014?
Yeah. After I failed the match after I failed the match in general surgery in McGill, I asked for an interview to understand what's going on, and same I did in the family medicine. And they were nice enough to meet me, actually. So they both met me.
Medicine program director and
both.
the program director.
Both, yes.
Wow, I never thought about this. Okay.
Yeah. So I met with that guy, and he was like, you can't apply for family medicine. For you as an IMG, I want to know that, I want to be sure that you were born to be a family physician. That's what he wants. And that's true for every single specialty you're going to apply to Canada. You cannot switch. I sat in the committee in the my residency program, now in my fellowship program, and also I had the chance to sit in the committee for University of Toronto, the application to apply in the medical school, right? And there's always a red flag about any application that looks like he's mixing, right? So for example, you're applying to family medicine, and I'm coming from completely surgical background, right? Like I'm working in Montreal Children's Hospital as general surgery. Everything I'm doing is surgery, right? And then applying to family medicine. I did actually a couple observership with family physicians in their clinics, but your strong point, your direction is going to surgery. You can't just switch at the last moment and convince the people that's like, oh, by the way, I want to be a family physician. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And you can't do this for any other specialty. You cannot say, although they say in the family medicine programs, they say, we welcome all the IMG backgrounds from surgery, gynae, pediatrics. They say this in their website, but the truth is not. The truth, they need to, I think, and that's what I was told. They need to be sure you were born to be a family physician, or you were born to be a general surgeon. There's no way any distractor can be added or got into your CV about that. So, and this will lead me to the next thing, which is whenever you apply for any specialty, you need to build up your CV towards that specialty and only to that specialty. You can't really have any distractors in your CV. You can't apply for family medicine and you do one observership in plastic surgery. You cannot, because a big question mark, why this guy is doing plastic surgery? Like, do you want to be a plastic surgeon? They will never ask you that. They cannot actually ask you that. Oh, what programs did you apply to? But this will be a no-go right away. Right away, it's going to be a no-go. And that also applies, I don't know if you want, we can wait until we speak about letter of recommendations, but this also applies to letter of recommendations. So in my first, because the people that you will talk to, they're not necessarily, you'll have the chance to work with for example, if you want to apply for family medicine and general surgery, you might not have the chance to work with 3 general surgeons and 3 family doctors to write you letters specific to the specialty. But I had the mistake about, well, I had the chance to speak to work with great people actually, and very well known, but they are, for example, general surgeons, right? And I'm applying to family medicine. So I didn't want to get that into one. So I thought, okay, like why don't you just write me a general letter, not like specific for anything? Until somebody sat with me after 3 years of failing, telling me, look, Fuad, that's actually not only is not going to benefit you, that's going to harm you very hard. You cannot get as a letter of recommendation from a general surgeon as a general letter of recommendation, because that person would write, well, this guy is good, I don't know, professional, etc. But you will look like you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
Like you will look like you're confused, and this is not going to help you. So things are difficult enough that you need to put all your efforts to have everything you have, letter of recommendation, research, elective observerships, everything you've done are in one direction. Well, the question is now, what if I can't? Or because I don't have time. So don't confuse, don't get your CV, I don't know, contaminated with other activities that will make you look like you don't know what you want. If ever, make two separated CVs. You know what I mean? Like, let's say that you're applying for two different things. As a Canadian graduate, you can say, you can look like you're applying for surgery, and then you apply to family medicine as a backup, because they know who they are. They are very aware of everything about them because of the med school and all the curriculum with everything. But for us, they know nothing about us. We can't do that, right? So if you ever applying to two specialties, which is mostly what's happening with most of the IMGs, you need to make two separate CVs, like completely. So the first CV is applying to family medicine. So you need to have observerships in family medicine, letter of recommendation focused on family medicine, and that's it. And the second will be another CV. If you don't have time for both, pick what you want and stick with it, because you're losing both by contaminating things. You're doing one observership in general surgery, another observership with a family physician. You get a family physician letter of recommendation for general surgery, and vice versa. You're losing both. And that would happen to me. I mentioned before, when I started to do my master's and I was working in the Montreal Children's Hospital, I applied to family medicine and general surgery here in Quebec, not here, I mean in Quebec. And I couldn't match. And at the same time, I applied to the United States in the same year. But in the United States, I only applied to general surgery, and I got nothing. And then at that point, I realized that after I met with the program directors, on one end in the family medicine, that I cannot just apply for family medicine. I need to be, my CV need to be more consistent with that. And with my meeting with a general surgery program director, she was like, you still have a chance outside Quebec. So, and then next year I took the NAC-OSCe exam, which I didn't take before. And then I applied in 2015, and that was my final year, I guess. So I started in July 2016, which would be like 15-16 match.
Gotcha. Okay, so just to summarize, like you went through almost 3 matches, and you were like hit and again, hit repeated times, and like you're able to stand up again, continue your journey. Like someone like in your shoes would be like, oh man, like I'm just gonna not apply to general surgery. I'm just gonna focus on family. It's easier. I'm gonna make money. And like, did you have like similar thoughts, or like were you like, have you ever questioned yourself at that time?
Oh yeah, big time. Oh yeah, big time. Hundreds of thousands of times. Oh yeah, big time. every time, because especially when I was working and had my master's and some publication, my CV was like there for an IMG, you know what I mean? Like you're working in the system, you're having publications, and yet I didn't match at that year. I was like, oh my God, like maybe that's it, right? Like every time it was called the match day, like my family knew about it. My match day was a typical day for me. So match day was a failure 3 times down back to back. So in the match moment, I go in, I don't match, and go into my room. 3 hours after, I come up. It's like, I'll do it. بدي كسر راسهم. And then it goes on for the next year. Yeah, big time. I questioned myself many times. Even everybody around me, right? Like we never heard about an IMG that could match in general surgery. Like, are you crazy? Yeah, of course, absolutely. But every time I came back to the basics of like, I can do it if I work well on it. And then every time again, I hit the wall. I just stand up, I kind of and again, in very objectively manner, look at my CV, know what I need to do next time to be better. And that was always my big question for the first few months after I don't match, is basically get somebody who really knows what's going on, which are mainly, let's say, a supervisor or again, the program director in these programs. Like I need an advice, a sincere advice. So you go and look for it. And then it's like, okay, this is my CV. I applied, what's the problem? Please let me know what's the problem. And then what happened in each year I don't match. So each year I don't match, I sit down, like, what do I need to do? And then I understand what I need to do the next time, and then I go and target it. And this was true, especially in research. And the first time I didn't match, which was like, kind of, now I look back, it's like, what the hell? How could even I imagine that I could match? Like I had nothing. And then I realized somebody's told me, it's like, oh, you need a research for sure. Like you're aiming for surgery, like you need research. I was like, sure. So I started to email that person about research, like nonstop, every single week, until it's like, okay, come, I will meet you. And they're like, what do you want? It's like, I want research. So it's part of it is, and again, if anybody is gonna see this interview and get anything out of it, is really, you need to know what you want, and you need to know what you need to, and then if you have it, perfect. If you don't have it, that's how you need to get it, and then you can decide upfront if you want to go through this or not. So it's more of like, I'm trying, if anything, to draw an image of a good candidate, at least in my experience, to everybody, to have a kind of contrast with their situation. So if you're aiming for surgery, you don't have research, you need research. If you're aiming for surgery, you didn't do elective, or they don't know you from before, you need to do electives, and not elective, observership, I should say, and work with them before. That's a must, almost a must.
Gotcha. Okay. So can you tell me a bit about like the letters of reference, and how did you get this? How were you able to build good connections and able to like sell yourself so people can write you good letters? Like, can you tell me about this experience?
Yeah, sure. So for letter of recommendations, and again, getting letter of recommendation from people, and now looking into letter of recommendation from other people for the committees that I sit on, or either for residency or for my fellowship now. So from you as a person who's asking for a letter of recommendation, so in order to get a good letter of recommendation, basically you need to show something good, right? Basically.
Exactly, yeah.
So there should be some sort of a payback, let's put it like that. So you need to show something very sincere and honest and work hard on it. And that person will actually, your supervisor, let's say, or that person, will he or she actually, if they really like what you're doing, they will tell you, well, do you want a letter of recommendation? Because this is a good sign that they will write something good. So from your end, you need to, let's say you're working with an observership, you need to be sincerely working hard. Like just be yourself. You need to be professional. You need to arrive on time. You need to be a good communicator. You need to be reliable. You say something, you do it, or you communicate that you couldn't do it. So you should be a peace of mind to anybody who's working with you. You shouldn't be a trouble source. You know what I mean? Like if you can do it, just do it. If you can't communicate, you can't. So everybody knows what's going on. If you work on research, be on time, work hard on it. Try to build up your knowledge on your own, because it's mostly a self-learning process. And ask for feedbacks, right? I don't know, maybe I made some headaches to my supervisor the first few months I worked with them. I used to send them emails regularly. Like usually they don't give feedback unless there's something really, really big happening. And I learned this in my residency. It's like, oh, no news, good news. If you're working a rotation, nobody's telling you anything, it means that you're doing the job perfect. And then if there's a mistake or there's a problem, somebody will sit down with you and talk to you, right? But if you're learning something new, I used to really send an email on a regular basis to my supervisor saying, hey, I am now doing this, any feedback? So this will actively actually making them think, it's like, oh, you're doing the job, but yeah, sure, maybe you could have done this better. Maybe you could have done this better. You need to understand that you're aiming for above average. You can't just do whatever everybody else is doing, and then you will be like, oh, getting something that somebody else didn't get. So you're aiming for above average. So you need to work hard on your during the time that you're working with these people. That's from your end. And when you ask for let's say that you're sending an email to somebody to ask them for a letter of recommendation, please include that you want a strong letter of recommendation. So you say, dear so-and-so, I'm asking you please for a strong letter of recommendation. And again, it will be ideal if you say, for example, I am applying to family medicine this year. I want you to please write me a strong letter of recommendation specific for family medicine candidate. So these things should be clear in whoever is writing you the letter, because if they are not going to write a strong letter of recommendation, better not to do. Like if somebody is going to write a letter of recommendation for you saying, I enjoyed working with him, he comes on time, I have no issues about him. This is almost a bad letter of recommendation. Yeah. Like almost, you know what I mean? Like they don't need to say something bad in the letter to be a bad letter of recommendation, but this is very neutral. And it just tells somebody that the best people that you worked with at your best times is saying this on you. You know what I mean? Because for me, as a person who's reading the letter of recommendation, you by definition ask the people that you work the best with to write you a letter. And if that person who worked the best with write that neutral letter of recommendation, it just means that's your best level. Like their best level, it would be average. Some people will actually write in their letter saying, I think he will do good in this discipline, right? That's a bad letter of recommendation. A strong letter of recommendation should include things like extreme. I will, for example, like there's strong sentences that will be included in letter of recommendation, like, oh, I would put him or her in my best 10% residents I work with or something like that. It's not your part to worry about what these people will write, but just to say that if they don't write a strong letter of recommendation, it's almost a bad letter of recommendation. So if you don't include this, telling them that you want strong letter of recommendation, if you say, well, can you please write me a letter of recommendation? Yeah, sure, anybody can write you a letter of recommendation. They will never say no. But if you specifically ask for strong letter of recommendation, and they don't think of you that strong, they may say no. They may politely say, I'm not sure I'm the right person to write this, or they will do it in a way that you feel like, okay. So the best for you is to understand that this person is going to write you a strong letter of recommendation, and you need to waive your right to see it. Like some I don't know if it's ever happened that some people will just don't waive the right to see it. A letter of recommendation, by definition, you should waive your right to see it. You should never see it at all.
Yes.
Because a letter of recommendation, for me as a person sitting in the committee looking at it, if I know that you saw it, for me it's nothing completely. And it's actually not only nothing, I will just question in my mind why this candidate asked that supervisor to see the letter of recommendation. He or she has a problem of trust. You know what I mean? It will raise lots of questions around the thing. So the ideal thing is that for you to ask for a strong letter of recommendation specific to a discipline, and then that supervisor will just respond and say, yeah, sure, for sure, I can write you that. So you know that person is writing you a strong letter of recommendation, and then you will be fine. You should waive your right to see the letter. You cannot see it. So for me, my letter of recommendation were for general surgery, specific for general surgery, and that wasn't actually super challenging, let's say, because I was already working in that environment. I was already working in Montreal Children's Hospital. Actually, the time my contract with them was finished and I wasn't working clinical anymore. But I was really lucky to have to be around in a group that are already general surgeons, and they could easily comment on me being I don't know, in the OR, interacting with the patients, etc., which worked as good as an elective, actually, even better.
Wow. This is so inspiring, my friend. I would say that, like, this is so inspiring for sure. And just last thing, when you applied in 2015, so did you get any interviews from the US or no?
Sorry?
When you applied in 2015, like you applied Canada and the US.
No, I didn't get any interview of general surgery in US. No.
Despite doing research, despite
yeah, nothing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And like, what do you think would be the cause of that? Like, have you ever like questioned that, or did you ask anyone why you didn't get interviews? Or
I applied to United States seriously one time for general surgery, which is that year, and it was kind of surprised to know why this happened. I didn't really have the time after to just kind of, like figure it out or just think why this might be the reason, because the next year I was more focused in Canada. And my Sonali step score were fine, like wasn't terrible, wasn't super great, because I understand I get like 240s, 240, I think, step one and step two. Yeah. But maybe the aim for the steps. Oh, and another one. The time from your graduate year in US counts.
Oh, gotcha.
Once you are beyond 10 years of graduation, you are almost your chances will be very low, or you should be known to them at some sort. Like some of the programs, if you apply, I'm not sure if 10 years is the number, but a few years after you graduate. So the more you're close to the graduate year, the better. I graduated 2006 and I was applying 2014 or something. So some of the programs, even they auto filtered it out. Like they don't even look at the application.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All righty. All right. So I think we covered everything. Is there anything else like we missed?
Um,
Any final words? Like what are like your take-home points from your like amazing experience?
um, so I don't know if so. I will just speak in general about matching in Canada and in specific to general surgery as an IMG. First and foremost, you need to pass your exams well. It's more relevant to, I think, family medicine, and I don't know, maybe you can correct me if it's in general medicine as well. They like high scores.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Not necessarily the same for surgery, but you need to pass them well. You need to be like average, above average, not failing, etc. So you need to be fine with these. That's number one. Number two, start the other way around. Go and meet somebody who matched and ask them what they need to do. Well, let's start with this. Know what you want. So this is the very first thing. Know what you want. So when you know what you want, for example, I want to do radiology. Great. Your next step is to go and meet somebody somehow that match in radiology, that have a starting point like yours, right? Like an IMG. Go meet that person, ask them what they did, and just do what they did. And then this will save lots of your time, because you can start as like, I will do everything I can. And then you will ended up realizing a few years down the road that, oh, by the way, this specific spot needs this, that specific spot need that. And like you're missing all of these. For example, there is some programs that need elective and you cannot do elective. So you don't aim for that program at all. There are some programs that need specific requirements that you cannot meet. So what I mean by that is that go know what you want, go and see that person or get in contact with people that already match to that specific spot, and then work on yourself to get what they want. It's not like you're filling your basket of things that may or may not need it. No. Oh, so for example, University of Toronto, for example. Oh, so who is on the year? Just, I don't know. It's not easy to get in contact with people, but still, I would go meet one of the IMGs that matched. Like, how did you do it? What did you do? What do you think they need, right? Speak to the people, get yourself exposed to the system, which is not easy, but you need to do that. And you are on the side part of the process. Like if you say, for example, well, I'm giving up, that's it. You're feeling that they are losing you. Well, they're not, because there's lots of people around and the only one that's losing the system. So you need to be consistent. So expose yourself to the system, know what you want, and do what they need, right? They want research. Okay, so your next step is research. Okay, cool. How can you do research? Okay, email people persistently and nicely and nonstop until they respond. And again, be nice and gentle and professional. You can still be nice and gentle and professional and pressing and at the same time and persistent at the same time. So, and like just offer your sincere willing to learn, your free time, which is great. Nobody has time to do research, right? Everybody is busy, and they will be very welcoming anybody who says, you know, I just want to learn. I'm offering you my free time, and then I'm ready to learn. It's like they'll be okay. That's great. Just come in. I know it's in COVID now. It's terrible, but that's generally speaking what's going on. So you want some sort of discipline. Look at the programs that are taking these disciplines. For example, let's say general surgery. Somebody wants to do general surgery. So you need to look into what are the sites of general surgery, which programs are taking, and you'll realize shortly that your chance will be either in Quebec or in Toronto. Good. So you aim, for example, Toronto, let's say that. Well, you get into contact with them, you send email to the program director, get yourself in that. connection here is not connection as in our country. In our countries, connection is that you will sit in a spot that you don't deserve, and you just take it only because you know somebody. Here, it's not like this. This is not connection. So connection here is that you have 10 excellent candidates that fulfilling all our requirements completely. And then, oh, because we worked with Fouad and we know Fouad, we'll take him. That's what connection is. So you need to do your part and then get yourself with the community. And then if the time comes, they will take you. I think we spoke about the letter of recommendation. Ask for strong letter of recommendations. You need to include this in your email. I'm asking for a strong letter of recommendation. So the other person feel free to say yes or no. And you don't really need anything below strong letter of recommendation. That's number one. Number two, get your letter of recommendation specific for the discipline. Don't get general letter of recommendation. Somebody who's only saying, well, he's good, he's nice, he comes on time. That's not useful at all. And this actually will harm your CV. Don't contaminate your CV when you're applying to one specialty with another specialty at all. It's a killer. You're gonna lose both. You can't do an elective in family medicine and elective in plastic surgery and you apply for both. You're down in both. So you either do two completely separated, you build up two completely separated CVs, or if you don't have time, pick one, pick the easiest for you, the one that you really want, and work on it hard, just one direction. It's possible, right? What a man can do, another can do, right?
Exactly.
But it needs what it takes just for this to happen.
And you're a living example of this. Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and this was like very inspiring. I think you are one of the most inspiring people I've interviewed on this channel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I hope I'm sure actually this will help many people. Thank you so much, Fouad.
No problem. No problem. You're welcome. One last thing. Can I say it? I just remembered.
Go ahead.
I used to watch Formula One, and there's a guy, his name was Michael Schumacher, you know?
Yes.
Perfect. I love Michael Schumacher, right?
Yes.
If you ever watch Formula One, they used to do like one round in the day before, and whoever get to the round faster, they will sit in the first place and then second place and the third place in the real race, right?
Yes.
And then Michael Schumacher was almost always the first to start, and sometimes he started the second. But most of the time when he started the second, there was a problem happening with the guy in the first place. I don't know, mechanical trouble, something. And there's always they saying, well, this guy is lucky. Michael Schumacher is lucky. He was at the second place. And then look at that. The first place guy get a problem, get a technical issue, then he could take the first place. And every time I heard that actually before, I completely disagree with that. This guy was not lucky. This guy was not sitting at home. He wasn't the third or fourth or sixth or seventh place. He was sitting on the second place. Just for any chance to show up, he will be the first place. So this guy was not lucky. This guy was hardworking around and just waiting for that chance to happen. So when you hear me saying anything now, or anybody else on this channel, you will feel like, well, this guy is lucky. That person was lucky. Well, maybe, for sure, part of it was luck to have person getting that chance to work with these people, or even to have a chance to work in that hospital or get that master's, for sure. But when I get that chance, or anybody else, I'm sure, get this chance, they were not sitting at home, we're not waiting for the chance to knock our door. We were around and working hard for this chance to show up. So this is my last couple lines for you guys. Work hard in order to be in a place where if a chance shows up, you're gonna catch it. Like Michael Schumacher.
Exactly. Oh my God, this is so inspiring. Thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time. Good luck for everyone. I'm currently a pediatric surgery fellow at CHIO. You can send me, I don't know, I don't mind if you